Most people in the UK don't have a money problem. They have an education problem. And it's silently destroying their financial future. Here's a shocking stat. Only around 15% of UK adults invest through a stocks and shares ISA. Almost 1 in 5 have never even heard of one. Yet ISAs are one of the most powerful wealth-building tools this country offers. So what's going on? Let's look at the reality. Over 21 million adults have some kind of ISA. But last year, fewer than 4 million used a stocks and shares ISA. Nearly 10 million chose cash ISAs instead. And around 60% of the population has no ISA at all. Right now, there's roughly £872 billion sitting in ISAs across the UK. Over £360 billion of that is in cash, earning almost nothing, while inflation quietly eats away at it every single year. And most people don't even realize what it's costing them. Over the last decade, the average annual return, cash ISA, about 1.2% stocks and shares, ISA, about 9.6%. Put £10,000 into cash for 10 years, and you end up with around £11,000. Invest that same £10,000 and you'd have over £25,000. Same starting point. Same tax wrapper. A difference of nearly £14,000. That gap is the price of not being taught. Now let's talk about time. If you invested £500 a month and earned 10% a year, after 10 years, you'd have around £100,000. After 20 years, nearly £380,000. After 30 years, over £1.1 million. You only put in £180,000. The rest is compound growth. And here's the part that hurts. Start at 18 instead of 38, and you're playing a completely different game. This is the kind of knowledge that should be taught before people ever receive their first payslip. So why aren't people investing? Not because they're lazy, not because they're irresponsible, but because they were never taught how. They think it's only for the rich. They're scared of losing money. They don't know where to start. They assume it's too complicated. Every single one of these is an education problem. You can start investing with less than the cost of a takeaway. The barrier isn't money, it's knowledge. There's also a huge gender gap. Over 40% of male ISA holders invest. Only about a quarter of women do. Not because women are worse with money, but because they've been excluded from financial conversations for generations. Education fixes that. The younger generation is starting to wake up. Around a third of 18-25-year-olds already have an ISA. They're using lifetime ISAs. They're investing earlier. But they're learning from YouTube, TikTok, and online communities, not from school. Now think about this. There are around 14 million children in the UK. Last year, only about 1.3 million junior ISAs were funded. That means roughly 90% of kids are growing up with no investment head start at all. Not because parents don't care, but because no one ever taught them. And while the UK drags its feet, the US is moving. More than half of American states now require personal finance to be taught in schools. In 2019, it was barely any. Now it's mandatory in places like California, Texas, and Florida. In the UK, it's barely mentioned. And the timing couldn't be worse. From 2026, dividend tax is rising again, which makes tax-efficient investing more important than ever. Yet most people still don't understand how ISAs even work. I'm proof of what this gap costs. I wasn't taught any of this. I learned in my mid-20s, after losing my job and realizing I had no savings, no investments, no safety net. That shock forced me to learn. A few years later, I've built a 6-figure portfolio generating thousands per month. And all I can think is, what if I'd known this at 18? That's a decade of compound growth I'll never get back. So what needs to change? Financial education should be mandatory in schools, not optional, not a footnote, a core subject. The system needs simplifying. ISAs shouldn't feel like a puzzle. We need to teach investing, not just saving, because saving alone won't beat inflation. And we need to normalize talking about money. No shame, no secrecy, just knowledge. Because the UK doesn't have a wealth problem. It has an information problem. Hundreds of billions sitting in cash. Millions missing out on compounding. An entire generation learning too late. That can change. But only if we keep talking. Only if we keep teaching. Only if we make financial education impossible to ignore.